14 people have now been killed by terror attacks since the new Netanyahu government took office, vowing to improve the security situation. The latest surge of attacks in the West Bank and the responding settler violence has only upped the ante, even as the coalition experiences internal discord over the best way to meet that challenge, and also increasing national disunity over his judicial overhaul plans and other policies. Well, joining us now for more is retired IDF Major General Amos Yadlin. He's the former chief of military intelligence. He joins us this evening from Tel Aviv. General Yadlin, thanks for joining us. First, let's talk about the challenge of formulating a strategy to deal with this recent surge of Palestinian violence. At the same time, the government seems divided between the best ways to go about it. For example, some members wanting to improve the security cooperation or restore it with the Palestinian Authority. Others that see the PA as either irrelevant or an enemy.
Okay, you're absolutely right that the Netanyahu government has two drivers in the car. But first, let me say that Palestinian terror was not invented with the Netanyahu government. It was there before, it was there for years, and this wave have started under Bennett last March. So fighting with the Palestinian terror should be done by the IDF, the Shin Bet, the Internal Security Agency, and the police. And they need to preempt every terror attack. The problem with this wave is that it's not based on organizations, on laboratories that prepare explosives. It's a terror of young or not so young people who are getting up in the morning, taking a weapon, and deciding to make a terror. This is more difficult to cope with, and we have to understand it. But to your question, the government can put more fuel on the frustration, on the terror intentions of these Palestinian people, and it can divide the population from terror. And what Ben Gvir and Smotrich want to do basically is to collapse the Palestinian Authority and leading towards annexation. The professionals, the IDF, the Shin Bet, understand where it is going. It will not be acceptable to the international community. It will not be acceptable to our Arab allies, and it's very dangerous for Israel. And we don't want to replace the Palestinian Authority with another 10 billion shekels for education, sewage, transportation. It makes no sense. And the problem is that you don't know who is taking the decision at the end of the day. This right extremist or the prime minister, the defense minister, and all the professional organizations.
Right. I do want to also talk about the recent incidents of let's say, violence from the resident Israeli community, or some would say settlement community, in Judea and Samaria in the West Bank. And how does that how does that complicate dealing with the security situation?
It is first and foremost not moral, not a Jewish moral, to attack innocent people. So they say we take the law in our hand, but the law is not permitting anybody to attack innocent people. It's not create deterrence, which was a member of Knesset Fogel saying, we want to deter. On the contrary, it's give motivation to these Palestinians to go to even more. And it is disturbing the IDF going after the Palestinian terrorists, because now they have to share their forces between the Palestinian terrorists and the Israeli terrorists. So I'm 100% against it, and I condemn it, and I'm saying that this is a shame for Israel.
Right. I just want to ask you, because of the current divisions in the country over the government's judicial reforms, I don't want to get into that, but we do see both senior military officials speaking out in some way, on the basis of their position, one way or another in the plan, usually against it. And we've seen, of course, reservists in military intelligence, which you commanded, even coming out saying, threatening not to do their military service as a reserve service. I mean, I want to just get your feelings about, it's always been said, keep the army, the military out of politics. It seems that line is very thin now.
No, it's still very important to keep the IDF out of the political dispute. And when I'm saying the IDF, I'm saying that people who are serving, the chief of staff, the major generals, all the way down to the private fighter in paratroopers, in armor, in the Navy, everywhere. So those who serve in uniform should not deal with the political dispute. However, and you mentioned a former chief of staffs, a former generals, a reservist. As citizens, they have the right to demonstrate. They have the right to tell to the government they're trying to legislate legislations that will change the nature of the Israeli way of doing business, and check and balance will disappear. And some of them are saying it's leading for dictatorship. They have all the right to use all kind of protests to stop this as citizens, until once again it's coming to a line of violence, of civil war. This should not be a line we should not cross. But any kind of protest is legitimate, even if you in the past served in the military or you are now a reservist. When you will be called, when the siren will go up, I hope that all of them, if they will be called, will go back and do their duties as they did in the past.
Right, General Yadlin, one last question to change the subject. Reuters reporting, citing IAEA sources, that they've detected particles of uranium in Iran just below that 90% threshold. Is that red line now really here for the West, and Israel is going to have to take action?
You know, we had a red line in 20%. If you remember 2012, Prime Minister Netanyahu, famous diagram, the line was in 20%. Then it went up to 60%. Now it is a 90%. The Iranians are checking how far they can go. And unfortunately, Israel and the West have given them a pass on crossing the red line.
Right.
So as we speak, I'm sure that in the Israeli government, in the Israeli general staff, and so in the Pentagon and in the State Department and National Security Council, there is now discussion what is the actual red line and what should be done. And here is a very important issue, because Israel and America has the same goal, that Iran will not be nuclear. And we are now in the time to coordinate what we will do together. But unfortunately, when the president and the prime minister will meet, they will not speak about Iran. They will speak, unfortunately, on the West Bank, what is happening in the West Bank, and the fact that the values of Israel and America are now in a different place because of the judicial reform.
All right. Well, Amos Yadlin, thank you for joining us on I-24 News.
It's a pleasure. Good evening.